How you doing there? Welcome back to... Ooh, should I roll up my sleeves? That's not a bad idea. Roll up my sleeves. Oh, should I roll up my... Yeah, this is like a roll up your sleeves kind of stuff. Okay, 1 second, friends. Alright, so, where were we? Oh, welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach Gimel, Daf 63 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends. Today's Daf is Givaldig. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of okay. I don't know. It talks about klal ufradu klal kind of stuff. I don't know why that's so gewaldig, but it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of okay. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it, but like it's okay in a very good way. If that makes any sense. Now, it might be a long daf. Yeah, it's not super hard or anything, but it's probably going to go slowly if I had to guess. And Samach Gimel Beis is pretty big, so I don't know. Let's see how it goes. But it's like a pretty okay daf. Like, I mean that in the best kind of way. Okay, so we're going to start on daf Samach Beis. Yeah, we got some work to do. We got like a little bit to do on Samach Beis because that's like where the good stopping point was. Then we have all of Samach Gimel, which is I don't know, it's like a kind of large-ish daf. And then the place to stop is on Samach Daled Amud Aleph. So we do have a lot of work to do. And I'm just like babbling, which doesn't quicken things up. So, what do you want me to tell you? It might be a long one. Okay, it's the morning. I've already had a few coffees. It would, I guess, be nice to have another one, but whatever, I don't have it, so I'm just gonna deal with it. And it's okay. It's still a little babbling on. Get into the vibe. Okay, we're gonna start in Daf Samach Beis at the 2 dots, about 10 lines from the bottom or so. Shemidas tashlumei kefel noheges v'chulei. Ho. So we had said in the Mishnah that kefel, right? Meruba mi. I'm going to read it from the Mishnah. Meruba midas tashlumei kefel, midas tashlumei BavaKama. That kefel is like, I don't know, greater than BavaKama because, right? We know what BavaKama is, right? Right. Because kefel applies to animate and inanimate things, whereas BavaKama is only b'shor v'seh bilvad. So now. Babylon. Sorry about that. Okay. So now, Menonimili, how do we know what? Wait, what? Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, fine. So Menonimili, sorry, I reviewed this yesterday, I think. Yeah, I reviewed it yesterday, but I know it pretty good. I think. I reviewed it yesterday. I mean, that means I've learned it twice. I think I know it pretty good. I just have to remind myself something. What do you want me to... Sorry. Leave me alone. That so how do we know that kefel applies to animate and inanimate objects? I really hope that animate is a word because I'm using it. The Tana Rabbanan that we learned in a Baraise, Al Kol Dvar Pesha. Okay, the pasuk says Al Kol Dvar Pesha, Al Shor Al Chomer. I'm reading the pasuk. Al Se Al Salma. Wow, there's a lot in that pasuk. So Yishalim Shnaim L'Re'eu is of course kefil. So now if we look at that pasuk again before we even look at the Gemara, so it's Al Kol Dvar Pesha. Okay, so in any negligence. Now we say Al Shor, Al Chamor, Al Se, Al Salma, right? An ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment. Al Kol Aveda, on any lost object. We're going to learn out things from all these things. And then there's kefel. So basically in the context of kefel, we have all that stuff. So the Tana Rabbanan, we learn in the Brisa, again, Al Kol Dvar Pesha, klal. Okay, when it says Al Kol Dvar Pesha, okay, that's anything. Al Shor, Al Chomer, Al Seh, Al Salma, now we start getting into specifics. An ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment, prat. Okay, Al Kol Aveda, but then it says on any lost object, Chazor v'Chalal. That's the second klal, klal ufradu klal, ho. So when you have a klal and a prat and a klal, yatadon ella keina prat, right? As we know, right? As we have stored somewhere in our brains, this concept of klal ufradu klal, that when you have a general rule followed by specifics, and then followed by a second general rule sandwich. So then the way that it's learned is that it what's included in the law, which in this case is kefel. What's included is everything similar to the listed items. So ma'aprat meforish. So the listed items are davar amitalta v'gufa mamon, things that are movable, and they themselves have monetary value. So af kol davar amitalta v'gufa mamon ho. So anything that is movable and it itself has value is shaykh to the halacha of kefel. Bam, ba-dam, bam, 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 bam. Okay, so there you go. You have animate objects there. You have animate things over there, right? An ox, a donkey, a sheep, and you have inanimate objects. You have a garment. Okay. So we see that anything that is right a metaltal v'gufo mamon, and it implies animate, and it includes animate and inanimate objects. Now yotzu karkos, this is the exclusion of karkos, shein metaltlin, that they're not movable. Yotzu avodim, it also excludes avodim. There's no kefil by avodim sheukshu karkos, because avodim are compared to karkos, right? Avodim are halachically are like karkos. Yotzu shtaris. And oichit, it excludes documents, shafalpisha metalton, that even though they're movable, ein gufon mamon, they themselves aren't money. You can use them to collect money, but they themselves are not money. And also, as an aside, yotze hekdish, it also excludes hekdish because re'eyu ksiv, right? The pasuk says, Yishalem shnaim l're'eyu, to his fellow, and hekdish is not your friend. Okay, it's not your friends, it's the Eibishter. So Yotze Ekdish, fine, Re'eyu Ksiv. Okay, fine. So that is how we know to include all of these things by kefil. Now, Imaha Prat Meforish, Davar Shenevei Loso, Mitami B'mago V'masa. Oh, right, I think we had a similar discussion recently. Was it even yesterday? I can't remember. But I think recently we had a similar discussion, I think. Did we not? I think we did. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? Did we not? I think we did. Did we not? But of course we did. No? Did we not? I don't know. Now I can't remember. What's this? Oh, we did, right? Oh, come on. I don't know, man. I need more coffee. Did we not? I can't remember. Okay, maybe we did, maybe we didn't. How's that? Now, what daf are we on again? Okay. Oh, okay, daf samach gimel. We're still on samach base. Oh, I gotta rub my nose. Sorry, Bob. Oh my gosh, so much going on. Okay, fine. So, where are we? So, no, we did. We definitely did. Because that was by... No, it was by like a pit, right? Right, we were saying that because it says like shor and chamor and stuff by pit. Yeah, because it said by pit, it excludes psule mukdashin. Yeah, of course we had this similar thing. Okay, where am I? So my problem for is so I'll say that, well, if you think about it, shor, chamor, seh, these are all things that their carcass is mitame b'magov masa. If it's an avela, if it's not slaughtered, if it's an avela, it's a carcass, so it will make a fellow tummy. It's an avatum. It will make a fellow tummy if you touch it or if you carry it. So av kol shenavelasu mitame b'magov masa. So I'll say that kefil applies to things that are mitame b'magov masa. Aval ofis lo, but that would exclude birds. That would exclude ophis, because birds are not mitame b'magov masa. A carcass, a nevela of a bird is not mitame b'magov masa. However, if it is a kosher bird, like a chicken, if you eat chicken nevela, a kazayis of it, it's mitame b'godam abeis abliya. If you take a bite out of it, so then when you swallow it, it'll be mitame. It'll be mitame you and your clothing. Okay, but they're not mitame b'magov masa. So I'll say that if we're talking about klal ufrad uchlal over here, I'll say, well, all your examples are things that are nivelasu mitame b'mago v'masa. That should exclude ophis. That should exclude birds. Mimotzi omar tochi. But can you really say that all of these examples, they're nivelas mitame b'mago v'masa v'asalma ksiv? But there's 4 examples. There's shor, chomer, seh, but also salma. Salma is a garment. A garment doesn't have a carcass. It's a garment. It's inanimate. So amri onbe by lechayim ka'aminon. That we're saying by we're talking meaning sure enachinami. There are 4 things listed: shor, seh, chomer, seh, salma. We're talking about the animals, meaning all of the animals listed are animals that are nivelos mitame b'mago v'masa. So therefore, I'll say that any living thing, only living things whose nivela is mitame b'mago v'masa would be shaykh to kefil, to the exclusion of ophis. I'll say that when it comes to living things, that only living things that their nivela is mitame b'mago v'masa, that kefil is shaykh. Lo, but a living thing that its carcass would not be mitame b'mago v'masa, kefel would not be shaykh. Sorry for the double negatives. Meaning ophis, right? Birds, the karka is not mitame b'mago v'masa. Therefore, I'll say that birds, if you steal a bird, there's no kefel. The kol chad v'chad klal ufrat by penavshe darshinon lay. Because we don't kind of view all of, I think this is what it means, that we don't view all of the examples like together and find a common denominator between all 4 of them, between shor, chomer, seh, and salma. Rather, we view each one separately, and therefore we could say, look, the fact that a garment doesn't have a carcass doesn't matter because we're not finding the common denominator between all 4 of them. We could look at each one separately in order to draw, in order to conclude in order to figure out what's included or not. Aval ophis lo, but to the exclusion of, I don't know if this is maybe there's a question mark. I think maybe that would be better, but I can't say for sure. Aval ophis lo, maybe that's a little better, but okay. But we're saying that the ophis, that birds are excluded. That birds are excluded. That birds are excluded, right? Because we're saying that all of the the Ba'alei that were listed are things that are mitame b'maga, that nivelos mitame b'maga v'masa. But im kain, if that's the case, that we're saying that it's these things that nivelos mitame b'maga v'masa, im kain, if that's the case, nichlo rachmana chad prata. But if that's the case, then just say one of the things. Just say shor, and I'll say that shor is something that nivelos mitame b'maga v'masa. And therefore, we're talking, kefil applies to only things that are nivelos mitame b'maga v'masa, to the exclusion of ophis. But the fact that we wrote, that the Torah writes more than just shor, it's coming to include ophis. To which the Gemara says, meh. The Gemara says, it's very sweet in theory to say that you could have just written one, but in practice you couldn't, because I would be led to all sorts of incorrect conclusions. Hey Nichtov, which one would you like us to write? Hey Nichtov Rachmana, Ikas Rachmana Shor. If the Torah would just write ox, well, you know what I would say? Havamina Karv Legabi Mizbeach in, Shein Karv Legabi Mizbeach lo. I would think that only animals that could be offered on the holy altar, in the holy temple, in the holy city of Jerusalem, would be shaykh to kefil, but anything that you cannot offer on the mizbeach would be potter from kefil. Because of achmana chomer, and if the Torah would have only said donkey, havamina kadosh b'bechora in shein kadosh b'bechora lo. So I would think, a donkey is something that has feter chomer tifte b'seh. That a firstborn donkey has to be redeemed. It has kedusha. So if we'd only wrote donkey, So then I would say, the only animals that are shaykh to kefil are animals that have kedushas bechor. Right, so where am I? So I'm in a kadosh b'bechora in she'en kadosh b'bechora lo. So therefore, we can't just write ox, because then I would think only things that could be offered as a sacrifice. I can't only write donkey, because then I would think only things that have kedushas bechor. So therefore, I need to write at least donkey and ox, right? So that if it says donkey, right, it would say only things that have kedushas bechor. Therefore, we add another thing to the list and to say no, don't look only at donkey. Open it up more and say even things that do not have kedushas bechor. Okay. Okay, fine. So if that's the case, so just write shor v'chomer. Why do I need seh? Seh lomali. Shmamina lasuye ofis. So why does it say seh? So why does it say seh? To include ofis, right? Meaning all I would technically need would be shor and seh, and then I would know, right? Obviously things that are offered in the mizbech, but also things that aren't offered in the mizbech, and also, right, because chamor is not offered in the mizbech, and then also we said also things that are not kadosh b'kedushas bechor. Okay, and then we would know everything we need, and we would say that those things are things that nivelos metam mago v'masa to the exclusion of office. But then we have seh. Why do we also add seh? So let's say that it's to include office, to say that also birds are shaykh to kefil. Ve'emol asuyu office tahorim. But maybe I'll suggest that fine, okay, the fact that we also have seh must be coming to include birds, but maybe it doesn't include all birds. Maybe only kosher birds. Because at least kosher birds, while their carcass is not mitame b'mago v'masa, but at least if you eat a nevela of a chicken, so then when you eat it, you'll become tummy. So even though by touching it and carrying it, you'll not become tummy, but by eating it, you'll become tummy. So at least there is some level of tumah associated with kosher birds, as opposed to non-kosher birds where there's just simply no tumah at all. Dumi deseh, which is similar to a sheep, that kosher birds at least are metame the person and his clothing when he eats it. But I'll suggest that tameh birds, that there's no tumah at all, so maybe kefil is not shaykh to if you steal a tameh bird. Ela kol ribuyahu. So rather, we say, you know what? How do I know that all of these things are included when it comes to kefil? Because again, if we use the klal ufradu klal direction, if we use the klal ufradu klal, so it would exclude, right? We only got as far as kosher birds to be included in kefil, but non-kosher birds, it sounds like, would be excluded from kefil. And we change tacts now, change approaches now and say, you know what? When it says kol, right, a kol dvar pesha, it's not klal ufradu klal, it's a riboy. Kol, right, where are we? Ela kol ribuyahu. That when it says kol, it means absolutely everything. That all these things, that everything is included in kefil. But is that really true? That whenever it says kol, it's entirely inclusive, it's a riboy? V'ha gabi meiser, but by meiser sheni. One second, I have to adjust my noise canceling earplug thing, headphone thing. Oh, it seems like it actually didn't need to be adjusted. Okay. Where am I? Gabi meiser, but by meiser sheni, dichsiv kol, right? It says v'nasata kesef. What is it? V'nasata kesef b'chol asher tav v'nafshecha, something like that. V'nasata kesef b'chol, yeah, b'chol asher tav v'nafshecha. Where am I? And we don't say that kol is including everything. We say it's klal ufrat. Let's go weiter. The Tanya is learned by saying nasata kesef b'chol asher tai v'nafshecha. and you can, right, so Meiser Sheni, of course, right, you take the second tithe, which we know what it is. You can either take it to Jerusalem and eat it there, or you could transfer the value on the money, bring the money to Jerusalem, and then buy stuff in Jerusalem. So we say, B'chol asher taiv v'nafshecha. Spend the money on whatever you want. Klal. Ba'boker, uvatzon, ba'uvayayin, uvashecher, right? Cows and sheep and wines and beers, intoxicants, ich weiß nicht. Prat. Those are specifics. Uvechol asher tishalcha nafshecha, and anything you want. Chazu v'chola. Klal ufradu klal. So here we see the word kol, and it's actually not a riboy, it's a klal ufradu klal. Yatadon elakena prat. And therefore we're saying by Meiser Sheni, what can you purchase with your Meiser Sheni money? Things that are similar to Bakar, Tzon, Yayin, Shecher, Ma'aprad Meforish, Primi, Privi Gedule Karka, just like when it comes to Tzon, Bakar, Tzon, Yayin, Shecher, it's primi pri, things that, one comes from the other, right? One animal is born from another, wine comes from grapes, etc. V'gedule karka, they grow from the ground. Avko primi pri v'gedule karka. It has to be something that's born from another thing and grows from the ground. To the exclusion of things like mushrooms, like salt. So we see that kol could be darshaned with a klal ufradu klal, and not necessarily a riboy. So, okay, so going back to our question by a kefil. So how do we know that kol is a riboy? Maybe kol is klal ufradu klal, and maybe then it does exclude ofis tameis. So ame bichol klala kol ribuyu. Look, by Meiser Sheni it says bichol asher taiv v'nafshecha, right? And then it says, right, uvichol asher tishalcha nafshecha. So bikol is klal ufradu klal, but kol, right, like al kol dvar pesha by kefil, so that is a riboy, okay, it includes everything. Viboy semi alternative, kol klalahu, or you could say no, kol is in fact a klal, kol is in fact a klal. Okay, so therefore, when it comes to kefil, when it says al kol dvar pesha, so it is klal ufradu klal. Okay, mihu. However, where am I? Kol dehacha ribuyahu. But kol in this context, however, is a riboy. It is not klal ufradu klal. How do we know? Well, michde. Let's see. Ksiv meikare klal ufrad uchlal. Because we already earlier. Where's earlier? So where's this next pasuk? Shmos chav beis vav. Okay, so that's two psukim before. No. What? Beis. Chav beis vav. Kiten ish. Okay. So where's our kol dvar pesha? That's chav beis ches. Yeah. Okay. So mamish two psukim earlier. We had the pasuk that said ki yiten ish areu klal, that if a fellow gives to his fellow, so that's a klal, that's a general statement, kesef okelim, silver or vessels, prat, lishmor, to guard, hadu v'chalal. So we already had a klal ufrat uchlal, two psukim earlier. V'isakadaitech, hi, al kol dvar pesha, nami l'chlal ufrat hu de'asa. And if it enters your mind that this pasuk as well of al kol dvar pesha, Asher al-chomer al-sama al-kol aveda, Asher ma-kiuzeh, etc. If that is oichit klal ufrad uchlal, right? So again, if yisakadaitech hay al-kol dvar pesha nami l'chlal ufrat hu de'asa, nichtov rachmana lahane prote gabi ha'eich klal ufrat. So if al-kol dvar pesha was meant to be darshan as a klal ufrad uchlal, well, then it should have been included two psukim earlier with the klal ufradu klal, and just teach it all together. Al kol dvar pesha lamali. So why do we teach it separately? Shmamina ribuyahu. So it must be because it's a riboy, that it's including all of the things, not and it's not a klal ufradu klal. 1 second, I have an itch to scratch. Givaldik. So okay. So now hashta de omar kol ribuya. Okay, Givaldik. So now that we say that kol is a riboy, that when it says al kol dvar pesha, it's including all the things, So kolani prate lamali. Well, then what do I do with chomer, shor, chomer, se, salma? What do we need them for? It says al kol dvar pesha. We're saying it includes all the things. So why do I need details? So chad lemute karke. Well, one is to exclude karke. V'chad lemute avodim. V'chad lemute shtaris. Okay, so one's to exclude karke, one to exclude avodim, one to exclude shtaris, that kefil doesn't apply to if you steal any of them. And a garment is to say that it needs, in order to be chayiv kefil, a double payment, it has to be something that is identifiable, that is uniquely identifiable. Okay. Al kol aveda, and when it says al kol aveda, the second kol, it's like Rabbi Bar Abba, the Amr Bar Abba, Amr Yochanan. Hatoin Tainas Ganif ba'aveda, that if somebody is Toin Tainas Ganif when it comes to aveda, right? It says, well, what do you say? Al kol aveda, right? So if somebody is Toin Tainas Ganif by an aveda, you remember what that is? We saw it the other day. I think I can't remember anymore what we learned and what we didn't learn. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? Sorry, we've learned a lot. We've learned like 1,500 daf together. Can you imagine? But still, I guess you can argue that I should be able to remember what we learned like 2 days ago. But where was this? Daf Nun Zayin. Not exactly 2 days ago. It's like a week ago. That means that if a fellow finds a lost object, and then when the loser comes to pick it up, he says it was stolen, but it wasn't really. He kept it. So then witnesses come and say, no, you're a thief. You're a thief. So Misham Tashlum Kefel, he pays Kefel. Shenemar, how do we know? Because it says Al Kol Aveda Asher Yomar, because it says Al Kol Aveda, and any lost object. So we see that also by Toin Tanis Ganif. When it comes to in Aveda, a lost object, the person finds a lost object and claims that it got stolen, but really he kept it himself. And then witnesses come and say that no, he kept it himself. So he pays kefel there. That there's kefel by toin tainas ganif ba'aveda. Okay, so that's what we learn out from al kol aveda. Okay, fine. Givaldik. Okay, so it includes all of the things, for the most part, when it comes to kefil. Alright, fine. Now, we learned in Masechta Shavuos in the Mishnah. Heichon pigdoni, bam bam. Okay. So a guy goes to a custodian and he says, "Where is the thing, the thing that I gave you to watch?" So Amalo Avad, and the custodian says it got lost. Mashbiacho Oni, to which the we have who's a guy, a depositor. Of course, you deposit something by a custodian. So the depositor says, "Do you swear?" V'amar Amen, he says yes. Right? He says, "Mashbiach Ani, I'm making you swear," and he says yes. So be'etzem, the custodian swore that it got lost. Turns out he's full of it. He took it himself. But the witnesses then come and testify that no, I guess he ate it, but I guess he took it himself. Mishalim Esakeret. So witnesses come, so he has to pay the amount of whatever was deposited, the principal amount. Hoda al pi atzmo mishalim keren v'chomesh v'oshim. Ha. What just happened there? The halacha is that if a fellow is toin tanis ganif, right, or in this case a toin tanis ovad, right, a fellow claims that it got lost. Turns out that he's full of it, and he swore that it got lost, and he then admits, you know what, I was full of it. I took it myself. So the halacha is that he has to pay the principal amount that he, of the deposit, plus a fifth, and he also brings an Osham, in Osham Gezela, I think is what it's called. In Osham Gezelas, I think is what it's called. So he has to bring Korban Osham. So let's go weiter for 1 second. Heichon Pikdoni. Now, if we had a similar scenario where the depositor says to the custodian, "Where is my deposit?" Armelo Nignav, and he says it was stolen from me. Not that it got lost, but it was stolen from me. A ganif, and he's full of it. And the depositor says, "Do you swear?" And he says, "Yes." He says, "I'm making you swear," and he says, "Yes." But then witnesses come and say, "No, the custodian himself stole it." Mishalem tashlume kefil. So then it's kefil. Hodeme atzmo, but if he admitted it himself, mishalem keren v'chomesh v'asham. If he admitted it himself, then he pays the principal amount plus a fifth plus a korban asham. So, wow, Gival, there's a lot here, a lot here. So in a scenario where a depositor deposits epis by a custodian, the depositor now comes and says, "Okay, I want to take my thing back." The custodian says it got stolen, and then he Basim swears that it got stolen, and then he has his second thoughts, and he says, "You know what? I don't feel good about this," and he admits, "You know what? I falsely lied." What? A false lie. Wasn't there like a movie or something called True Lies? Maybe there should be something called False Lies. Now that sounds like a good movie, a blockbuster. Anyways, I have no clue what True Lies was about, so I mamish don't know anything about the movie. So I don't know anything about it. Don't know what it is, but it rings a bell in my head. Akoponim. So I did not mean to say false lies. I meant to say a false swear. Okay. So it turns out that he sweared falsely. Okay. Turns out that he sweared falsely. No, well, I totally broke up that flow. Okay. Custodian says it got stolen. And he bets me swears that it got stolen. Sorry, Mom. He bets me swears that it got stolen. So now Besimi swears that it got stolen. Wow, my train of thought is like totally breaking up. He swears that it got stolen. Right. It turns out he's full of it. He then feels bad or whatever, and he admits on his own that he lied. So the halacha is that he has to pay the principal amount that that was of the deposit plus a fifth plus a korban asham. That's the halacha. If a fellow admits that he lied falsely in this scenario. However, if he doesn't admit it, but instead witnesses come and testify that he himself stole it, well then he's a ganif, and he pays kefil. Now this is specifically by if he claims that it was stolen, but if he claims that it got lost, we had said that if the witnesses come and testify that no, he took it, it didn't get lost. So then by Toyin Tainis Ovad, it would not be kefil, it would be Karen. But in both cases, whether he claims it got lost or whether he claims it got stolen, if he admits it on his own after swearing, so then he will pay the principal plus a fifth and a korban asham. Katoni miho so we just taught between Tainis Ganif that by Toyin Tainis Ganif. I'm not going to explain what Toyin Tainis Ganif means every time, so I'll explain it one last time, and then we're just going to call it Toyin Tainis Ganif. That is when he claims, right? The custodian claims that it got stolen, but in fact he took it himself. And we said if witnesses come and testify about him, so then there's kefil. If he admits it on his own, then it's keren v'chomesh v'asham. The mishalim tashlumei kefil, that he pays tashlumei kefil. Avo b'toyin tanis ovad. But if he claimed falsely that it got lost, lo mishalim tashlumei kefil, then he does not pay kefil. Vafilu toyin tanis ganif, and even when it comes to toyin tanis ganif, we're saying bishvue hu timishalem tashlumei kefil, that specifically he pays kefil because he swore that he was telling the truth even though he was not. Aval shelo b'shvueh, but if he had never sworn that it was stolen, eino mishalem tashlumei kefel, he does not pay tashlumei kefel. Right? If he did not swear, right, without a swear, then he would not pay tashlumei kefel. How do we know that I believe that toin tainis ganif is kefel? Titanu Rabbanan. That the rabbis taught, Im yimotze haganif, ho ho, bam 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 baradaram. So let's look at these psukim. Right, the first pasuk is Kitenisha re'eu kesef. Okay, I think it's talking about a shomer chinam. Right, I'm reading the psukim. I'm not reading the Gemara right now. Kitenisha re'eu kesef okelim lishmor. A fellow gives to his fellow silver or vessels to guard. V'gunov mi beisoish, and it's stolen. Im yimotze haganif yishalim shnayim. If the ganif is found, so then there's kefel. Now so we're going to say right now that this is talking about toin tainis ganif, right? If it turns out that he himself is the ganif, yishalim shnayim, then there's kefel. Im lo yimotze ganif, and we want to say, so right now we want to say that this is actually also talking about toin tainis ganif. Later on we're going to explain why do we have to have this twice, but anyways, so im lo yimotze ganif, right? Mamish continues, right? The first pasuk is Shmos Perek Chav Beis pasuk Vav. The second perek is Shmos Perek Chav Beis pasuk Zayin. So it's mamish one right after the next. It's saying lo yimotze ganif, etc. So we have im yimotze ganif yishalim shnayim. There's kefel. Im lo yimotze ganif, and we want to say right now that both of those scenarios are talking about toin tainis ganif. Okay. So back in the Gemara, the Tana Rabbanan that the rabbis taught, im yimotze ganif b'toin tainis ganif hakosov midaber. That when it says im yimotze ganif, it's talking about toin tainis ganif. Atomer b'toin tainis ganif, oinu ela beganif atzmo. How do we know that the pasuk is talking about toin tainis ganif? Maybe it's talking about a ganif himself. A fellow steals epis. If he's busted, he pays kefil. How do you know it's talking about a scenario? We have a custodian. He lies. Maybe it's just talking about a thief himself. Kishu omer im lo yimotze ganif. Well, look, the next pasuk that I read to you, right? It says right after im lo yimotze ganif b'toin tainis ganif hakosov medaber. Well, that pasuk, according to this brisa, is talking about toin tainis ganif. So if that pasuk, which comes mamish right after the first pasuk, so if the second pasuk we know, according to the brisa, is talking about toin tainis ganif, so then surely what was talking about immediately before that, we want to say is also talking about the same topic, the same subject, toin tainis ganif. So there you go. Both of these psukim are talking about toin tainis ganif, and there you have a psukim talking about toin tainis ganif. Tani idach. However, we have an andra brisa. Wow, this is how you know it. This is like mamish. I told you it's a good daf. It is a good daf. It's also a long daf, but it's a good daf. You know that I'm like getting into it because I'm like starting to like, my brain is like stopping to function as happened a few minutes ago. Like my words are starting to get jumbled. Like that's how you know that this is like a real kind of a thing. Tanidach, we have an under brisa, we have a different brisa. Imimotze aganif. Okay, in the first pasuk when it says imimotze aganif, beganif atzmo akosov medaber. Oh, so the first pasuk is talking about a thief himself. Atomer beganif atzmo. Wait, is it really talking about the thief himself? Maybe it's talking about toin tainis ganif. Kishu omer im lo yimotze aganif hare toin tainis ganif omer. To which, so this brisa says no. From the fact that the next pasuk is talking about toin tainis ganif, so amani mekayim imotze aganif. So then, what's the first pasuk talking about? It's not talking about the same thing. It's talking about something else. Beganif atzmo hakosov medaber. So the first pasuk was talking about the ganif himself. Okay, so the first brisa wants to say they're both talking about toin tainis ganif. The second brisa wants to say no, the first pasuk is the ganif, the second pasuk is toin tainis ganif. But everybody does agree on one thing, which is im lo yimotze ganif, that the second pasuk is betoin tainis ganif ksiv, is talking about toin tainis ganif. So there you have it. There's the pasuk for that there's kefil by toin tainis ganif. My mashma, how do we know that im lo yimotze ganif is talking about toin tainis ganif? So Omar Rava says, Rava, im lo yimotze kimasha Omar, if it doesn't turn out like what he claims, that it was stolen, elo shehu atzmo ganavo, rather he himself is the perpetrator, he himself is the ganif, yishalim shnayim, so he pays kefil. In fact, the Gemara uminolon de bishvue, and how do we know that kefil by toin tanis ganif is dafka when he swears that it was not stolen? So uminolon de bishvue, the tanis will learn advice of nikar balabayis el hu Elohim. So it says in that pasuk, right? Im lo yimotze aganif, right, which says toin tanis ganif v'nikar balabayis el Elohim l'shvue. So that means that he swears, right? That he had sworn. Atomer the shvua. How do you know it means it's talking about swearing? Or you know el ledin. Maybe it just means that he goes to Bezdin for a judgment. How do you know it means anything about swearing? So nemeshlichus yad lematav and nemeshlichus yad lemayla. Well, it says in our pasuk over here, im lo yimatze aganif v'nikar balabayis el Elohim im lo yisholach yodo b'mleches re'eu. Talking about shlichus yad. It says im lo sholach yodo. Now it says 2 psukim later, I believe. No, 3 psukim later. Shvuas Hashem tiyeh ben shneim. So a shvuah im lo shalach yodo b'mleches re'eu. So it says shalach yodo in both psukim, and in the second pasuk it's talking about shvuas Hashem tiyeh ben shneim. So shvuah. So malaholan the shvuah. So just like the second pasuk where it talks about shlichus yad is talking about a shvuah. Afkan the shvuah so oichit in the first pasuk where it talks about shlichus yad, it's oichit talking about a shvuah. So we see that by toin tanis ganif, we're talking about b'shvuah. He has to swear that he didn't steal it. So I understand, according to the second brisa, which says the first pasuk is talking about a ganif, the second brisa is talking about toin tanis ganif. So, okay, I understand why there are 2 psukim. 1 pasuk for ganif, 1 pasuk for toin tanis ganif. But according to the first brisa, which says that both psukim are talking about toin tanis ganif, how come I need 2 psukim? Give me 1 pasuk to learn how toin tanis ganif. How come I need to learn it twice? Samichad limute tanis ovad. Well, one of them is to the exclusion of toin tanis ovad, which we said at the top of the Amud, that toin tanis ovad, there's no kefil. It's just keren, just the principle. For the rest of the daf, it's going to be pretty technical. And according to the second brisa, according to the second brisa, which says that the first pasuk is talking about ganif, and the second pasuk is talking about toin tanis ganif, delo miyaser, which means that there's no extra verse. So the mute tanis ovad minole, how do we know to exclude toin tanis ovad from kefil? Mi ganif ha ganif. Well, it could have just said ganif, but it says ha ganif to exclude toin tanis ovad. Ulman Omer tavayu b'toin tanis ganif. Now, according to the first brisa, which says that they're both talking about toin tanis ganif, demiet le toin tanis ovad to the exclusion of toin tanis ovad. Ganif aganif ma'dorish be. So what does he learn out from ganif aganif? Elo. So Omar loch, he will respond to you. We needed for Reb Chia bar Abba and Reb Yochanan to Omar Reb Chia bar Abba Omar Reb Yochanan hatoin tanis ganif b'pikodin, that a fellow who is toin tanis ganif by a pikodin, right? Toin tanis ganif mishalim tashlume kefil, so he pays kefil. Tavachu macher, if he slaughtered it or sold it, mishalim tashlume arba v'chamisha, he would pay arba v'chamisha. So that's learned out from ganif haganif. L'manda Omar chad beganif v'chad b'toin tanis ganif. The haganif haganif apke l'mutei tanis ovad. Right, according to the second brisa, where the first pasuk is talking about ganif, the second pasuk is talking about toin tanis ganif. Ganif haganif is coming to exclude ovad. To Reb Chia bar Abba menole. So how does he know Reb Chia bar Abba that it includes Dalet v'hei arba v'chamisha tavachu machar? So Omar loch, he will say to you, Hekesha hu vein meshivin ala kesha. Look, the first pasuk which is talking about ganif, and the second pasuk, which is talking about Toin Tainas Ganif, are literally one after the other. So it's a hekish. They're compared. They're juxtaposed. And therefore, we can say that just like by a Ganif, there's Kefel and there's Daled Vehei. So by Toin Tainas Ganif, there's Kefel and there's Daled Vehei. Bishlam Lamanda Omar Chad Beganif V'Chad B'Toin Tainas Ganif Shapir. Okay, so according to the one who says the first pasuk is talking about Ganif, the second pasuk is talking about Toin Tainas Ganif, Givaldig. Elamanda Omar Tarbai B'Toin Tainas Ganif Ganif Atzmo Minole. But if you say that both pasukim are talking about Toin Tainas Ganif, so then how do you know that a Ganif pays Kefil? Both pasukim are only talking about Toin Tainas Ganif. How do you know that the Ganif himself has to pay Kefil? And if you're going to say, okay, bring it from a kavachomer, if a toyin tainas ganif is chayiv kefel, right? Where I don't know where this comes up, but I guess you could say like the maybe kavachomer is like, well, if when he got it, he was allowed to have it, and then he claimed that it got stolen, but like he didn't like actually go and steal the thing. So by toin, just making a claim that it was stolen, he's chayiv kefil. Certainly, if a fellow steals it himself, he's going to be chayiv kefil. So, but if that's the case, that you're learning out from a kavachomer, we know, of course, the concept of dayol lavo min adin, that if something is learned out from a kavachomer, it should be learned out. We should learn out entirely from the source, from the, I guess, the chomer case. I don't know, this breaks my brain. The kavachomer, that if in a more lenient case it applies, and certainly in a more strict case it applies. Yeah. So then we should say that, okay, well just then, so then, if we're going to say Toin Tainas Ganif is chayiv kefil, so therefore also a Ganif himself is chayiv kefil. Well, Toin Tainas Ganif is also only chayiv if he swears. So should we say that a Ganif himself is only going to be chayiv kefil if he swears that if he swears that he didn't steal it? So therefore we say we can't learn it out from a kavachomer from Toin Tainas Ganif, because then that would mean that by a Ganif they'd only be kefil with the shvuah. So we abort that. So nafkale midatane divechizkia. So rather we learn out. So if you say that both psukim are talking about Toin Tainas Ganif, we learn it out from. So how do we know that a Ganif there's kefil? So learn it out from Tana Devechizkia. The Tana Devechizkia was talking about the Besmedrus of Chizkia. Yomar shor ugneva uwa. So when the pasuk says im himotze timotze biyad, I'm reading the pasuk biyadu agneva. Mishor ad chomer ad se chayim shnayim yishalim. So we have a lot of stuff in that pasuk. Im himatze timotze, we have hagneva, we have shor, chomer, se, chayim, and then it says shnayim yishalim, so then there's kefil. So yomar shor ugneva, just say shor and gneva, ox and theft, v'akol bichlal, and that would include everything. That kefil applies to everything. So we see already. So I think that the proof, so the Brisa goes weiter, but the proof, I think we already have enough for the proof, which is that meaning this whole limud is talking about Geneva, it's talking about theft, it's talking about the Ganif himself. So we see from here that clearly from this pasuk of Imimatzi Timotzi Biyada Geneva, etc., this pasuk is talking about a Geneva, is talking about a Ganif himself. Okay, and what's the Brisa? So just say shor and Geneva, v'akol bichlal, and that would include everything. Ilukach and I would say ma'aprat meforish. So ilukach, but if we only had shor and gneva, I would say ma'aprat meforish karev legabi mizbeach. I would say that no, the shor, an ox is something that can be offered on the holy altar in the holy temple in the holy city of Jerusalem. So af kol karev legabi mizbeach. So I would say only things that can be offered on the altar, on the mizbeach, would be included in the halachas of kefil. Okay, what would then be included in that, right? That things that you can offer on the mizbeach, seh, like a sheep. Kishu omer seh, haresa omer, but the pasuk explicitly says sheep. So I mean, if it only says shor, so I would say only things that can be offered on the mizbeach, like what? Like a sheep. Well, the pasuk says sheep, so I don't need to learn out sheep. It says it explicitly. Hamani Mikayim Geneva. So then when it says, so I don't need Geneva, this general word of Geneva, to include a sheep. It already says sheep explicitly. So what's being included from Geneva? The Rabba's Kol Dover is coming to include everything. So Yom HaShor se v'Gneva. Okay, fine. So just stop there. Say ox, sheep, theft, v'akol b'chlal, and everything is included. Ilukacha isi omer ma'prat meforish davar kadosh bebechora. Well, I would say that an ox and a sheep have in common that they both have kedushas bechor. So I've called over hakadosh bebechora. So I would only include in kefel things that have kedushas bechor. Mayesh l'chalahavi. Okay, so what would you include, for example, right? Oh, right. Anything that has kedushas bechor, like what? Lavi chomer, to include a donkey. Shomer chomer, ari chomer, but the pasuk says explicitly donkey. So Amani Mekayim Geneva. So what do I learn out from Geneva, which is kind of more general, which is including other things? It can't be including donkey. It says donkey explicitly. So the Rabbis called over. So it's to include everything. It's to include everything in Kefil. So Yomar Shor v'Chomer Se Ugneva V'Akol B'Chlal. So say Shor Chomer Se and Geneva. That should be enough to include everything in Kefil. But if that's the case, then I would say, well, Shor, Chomer, Seh, those are all things that are Ba'alei Chaim, that are alive, that are animate. So I would think only animate things are included in Kefil. Savkol Ba'alei Chaim, Ma'ish Cholohavi. So what would be examples then of things that would, Ba'alei Chaim that would be included? Shar Ba'alei Chaim, all other kinds of animate things. Kshu Chaim, but it says, right, Adseh Chaim, Hari Chaim Amur. So it says explicitly Chaim, all live things. Hamani Mekayim Geneva. So then what is included when we say just Geneva generally? The Rabbos called over to include all the things. Okay, fine. So we're saying that all of the things are included in Kefel, and we will stop here. Holy moly, that was summed off, huh? What do we even talk about? I can't even remember. Like, how do we include? What's included? Wow, there was so much in that daf. Yeah, wow, there was so much there. Like, what do we include in kefil? So we said basically metaltalin and davar metaltalin v'yeshbo. What was it called? Davar metaltalin v'yeshbo mammon or something. Oh, where am I? Called davar metaltal v'gufo mammon. Things that are movable and they themselves have value. Then we did all these kinds of different limuds to learn that out, and we got into like Toin Tainas Ganif and Toin Tainas Ovad. We got into Shvua Sapikadon and Oshim Gezelos. A lot of interesting stuff. Klalu Fradu Chlal, Ribui. Tomorrow we're gonna get into more of this stuff. Very, very interesting stuff over here. So yeah, we're basically we're in the middle of the sugya now. So we're basically going to pick up where we left off tomorrow. All right, that was Daf Samachtimah Masechta BavaKama. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.